And we are rolling. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Power Platform Credentials Ask Me Anything with three amazing, two and me, Microsoft certified trainers. My name is Vlad Cafunescu, and I'm here joined today by Jonah Anderson and Tiago Costa. I know that Jonah, Tiago, you are both super popular, but for the people that do not know you, do you want to do some quick introductions? Jonah, I'll let you go first.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this live stream for Us As Anything. So, I'm Jonah Anderson from Sweden. So, I'm joining live today. I just got off work. I am a Microsoft certified trainer. I am an MVP for Azure and community leader of Azure User Group Sweden. And I also have a normal job as a senior Azure consultant at Solidify. And this is what I love to do for the community. That's why I'm joining Chago and Vilad and joining you guys as well.
Awesome. And let's get Tiago here back on screen. Tiago, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. If we have to, of course. Yeah, my name is Tiago. I basically kind of work as a cloud architect and an advisor, which is kind of a funny thing to say that I help companies, moving their workloads into Azure and building stuff with cloud AI. It has been a lot of my work lately, and of course, I also basically I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I also you find me very. It's very common to find me in the classroom teaching people. Sometimes remotely, sometimes in person around the world, and like Jonah and Vlad, I also like to do speaking conferences. I just like to speak at conferences. It's always fun to do that. So that's kind of me. Yeah.
That is awesome. Thank you so much both for the introductions. Uh, Now, you know what? I know that a lot of people, this is an AMA. So the goal of this is
Yes.
for us not to present anything. So hopefully we don't talk as much. We listen and answer to your questions. But I know sometimes it can take a little bit to get those questions in. So you know what? I prepared a quick presentation to go over Power Platform credentials. And anytime there's a question coming in the chat, Jonah, Tiago, just interrupt me. We'll get to the
Yes.
questions first. But I just know there's some people in here that just want to learn. They don't know what to ask questions about yet. So let me cover it a bit. And really, something that I wanted to cover before we just cover the credentials and the list of credentials is what's the point of getting Power Platform certified? I mean, me, Jonah, Tiago, we're passionate about certifications. Tiago even has a pillow to get certified that he sleeps with every single night. That is his pillow he sleeps on. But why should you maybe that certifications is not your day-to-day job? Why should you care about getting a Power Platform credential? And let me start with an interesting low-code opportunity. And this is a very recent number from the IDC, and this is in April 2024. It says that 1 billion new applications will need to be built by 2028. And I feel like, I should have this like 1 billion new applications, like in the movie, because it's so many. And let's be honest, I believe that number is real. I believe we can reach it, but we cannot achieve that number if we follow the same process as we did before. If we take a look at how we built applications before, is that, of course, it all starts with an idea or a business need. We need an app to do something. And then we have tons of boring meetings where business users tells the business analyst what they want. And that business analyst documents what they understood. They pass it on to the devs that start working on the app. And then you kind of forget you requested it. And a few months later, you get an app that might or might not be what that business user wanted. And those applications traditionally have been done fully via code. So everything was coded, everything was a new code that we had to maintain, that we had to upgrade. And every time that we needed to add a feature, we got to get another army of developers in. So now it's time for a bit of developer jokes, because I come from an IT pro background. I always say, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, that E equals MC2. Well, what it means in IT is that error equals more code power 2, because the more code you have, the more chances you have for errors, for bugs. And don't listen to devs that tell you, Vlad, it works on my machine. It's always a lie. But actually, it doesn't really work. It works on my machine. Since this is a Power Platform talk, Vlad, it works in my dev environment, is what we need to use for the Power Platform. But what if with low code, we need an app? So let's take a look at that same process. But instead of going to devs, the business user can directly start building it, can directly build it for themselves, whether it's a dashboard, a mobile app, a workflow, and they have a simple no-code interface to build it, and they launch it. They'll still go to a dev if it's needed, but we're not going to need to go to a developer for every single application that we want to create. And that will make life more fun for developers, because they're not going to work on the same boring application that everybody in every department needs, and they do the same thing over and over. They're actually going to work on the challenging, more exciting stuff. So why the Power Platform? I mean, if you believe, I know how some people feel about the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Some people love them, some people hate them. Microsoft is a leader in 3 of them, for low-code application platforms, for business intelligence platforms, and for process mining. So while it's not, you see, on the BI one, it's the top one by far. It's not the best one in the other 2, but what makes the Power Platform unique is that it's the most complete one. It's the only company that is on all 3 of them. So yes, I'm just saying, even according to Gartner, it doesn't win in every category, but still, it's the only one that is in as many quadrants. And you don't want to use 10 different applications for different business needs. Having only one suite of products will help you be more productive. And the growth has been pretty crazy, from 33 million monthly active users to 48 million monthly active users this year. So 33 million last year, 48 million this year. Sorry, coffee kicked in, and I'm eating some words here because I'm so excited. So the growth has been pretty amazing. Okay, now let's talk about credentials, which is the topic you're all here for. I did my quick intro. In the Power Platform portfolio, we have 5 certifications and 4 applied skills. For the certifications, we have 1 fundamental level, 4 associate, and 1 expert. If we take a look at them, your first certification is, and let me put this full screen so you all can see it better, is the PL900 Power Platform Fundamentals exam, which gives you the Power Platform Fundamental certification. This is optional, but recommended before you move on to the next ones. The first associate level certification is the PL200 Power Platform Functional Consultant. We then have the PL400 Power Platform Developer, PL300 Power BI Data Analyst, and now we're not going to argue whether Power BI is Power Platform or Fabric. We'll leave that over a beer at some point. I know, depending if you're Team Fabric or Team Power Platform, you might say that this belongs or doesn't belong here. And then we have the PL500 Power Automate RPA Developer. Finally, if you are an expert, you'll need to pass either the PL200 or 400, and then you can go for the PL600 Power Platform Solution Architect Expert. So those are the certifications at a glance. And for the applied skill, we have 4 of them. Create and manage automated processes with Power Automate, create and manage Canvas apps with Microsoft Power Apps, create and manage model-driven apps with Power Apps and Dataverse, and the brand new one that got released last week, implement AI models with the Power Platform AI Builder. So let me go back here to see Tiago's and Jonah's beautiful faces on the left because I'm almost done with my spiel and I
And we
can't
have
wait. We have questions.
questions. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't see them in the chat, but thank you,
Ah,
Tiago. Let's go ahead to the questions.
I don't see the questions as well. Is it just you,
So
Chago,
there
that
is,
sees
yeah,
it?
there is a question from Marcos from LinkedIn. Can you see it, Vlad?
I do not see
No.
it, but
On
I believe
comments.
you.
Okay, I need to,
So I
yeah.
can maybe I then I
Press.
can, because I cannot put him on live. Okay, but I can do the question if you want. I'm seeing here
Awesome.
on
Well,
our
Tiago,
comment on
well,
the right
you're
part.
gonna be our question reader, it
Yeah,
seems.
sure. Yeah.
From
I have to.
LinkedIn.
I have to serve for something, right? I need, that's my life purpose. So we have Marcus. Marcus is saying that how do we see the skill set needed for Power Platform careers evolving over the next year or two? And then he also has a subsequent question on this one. And with that in mind, what would be a specific Power Platform certification that you will see as the most valuable to achieve? Okay, Vlad, what do you think?
Me. Well, again, I'll kind of go back to my stacks on seeing how the Power Platform grew and keeps growing. It's currently at 48 million monthly active users. And let me tell you a stat from the Power Platform conference that really opened my eyes. Power Platform has 48 million monthly active users. Microsoft Teams has 320 million. Most people that have a Teams license can use Power Apps. They can use Power Automate. They're licensed to do it. That means you have over 200 million users that are licensed for the Power Platform that are not using it today. That opportunity is crazy. Every time I go on LinkedIn nowadays, I see a job offer for Power Platform
Platform.
experts for both internal jobs at companies and consultants. It's currently blowing up right now, in my opinion. So I think at that Power Platform functional consultant developer level, that's where the big need is right now. Architect as well, of course. One of them that is a lot more specialized, and I'll just put my screen back here for a second. Let me go in this one, is the Power Platform RPA developer, which is robotic process automation. That one I've seen a little bit less demand, but also Microsoft is so new in this field that has been dominated by UiPath and others, and I'm sure that will grow. But now, if you ask me what's the best certification for you, my
Yeah.
answer will always be the one that covers the products that you work with. I don't think we need to follow the best certification in a way because the answer will always be the architect. So it will always be, the one at the top here. Where is it? The advanced one, the expert. That will always be the best one in theory. However, if you're a developer, get the developer one. If you're a RPA developer, you specialize in robotic process automation, get that certification. It really depends on the job you do and proving to employers that you know how to do that job. For example, I do a lot of Power Automate. I don't do a lot of Power Apps. So the best one for me is create and manage automated processes with Power Automate, the applied skill, because that's the one that applies to most of the projects I'm doing. So that is my answer. Jonah or Tiago, do you want to add
I can,
anything?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can chime in on that one. That's exactly what I was saying. It's not just the certification itself now, it's also the applied skills. And you can get like the certification, like, platform developer, for example, and then also complete that with an applied skill, because the applied skills, they are like super specific, to tasks, or in this case, super specific. For example, you were saying, Vlad, you do a lot of stuff in Power Automate. So there's this one: create and manage automated processes by using Power Automate. But if you're doing more Power Apps, there's one for Power Apps, and so on. So also see those applied skills, and don't forget, the applied skills are free. Okay, you just need to sit and solve like a challenge, and you get the applied skill on your transcript like immediately. So that's good.
Yes. In my perspective, I don't work with Power Platform every day. I work a lot with Azure, but I am very interested to work and learn Power Platform in a way that you can use or combine actually the programming logic, for example, of Azure functions and integrate it with Logic apps or Power Automate in terms of like Teams integration. So I think it's a good way for everybody to learn, not just for existing project kind of work, in my perspective. You have a question? It comes up now.
Yes, now it comes up.
Oh,
I don't know what happened, but now they kicked.
oh,
They now we see them, so it's
okay.
amazing.
There goes my
Oh,
plan to dominate the
Oh,
question
but it's
asking.
okay.
yes,
I'll put them up, and you can still read
it's
them,
delayed.
Tiago. I
Yeah.
will not steal that for you.
So
So
let's do another one then. We have exactly that one from Michael that says that during the PHAL 900 exam, if there is going to be any exhibits with Power Automate flows that I need to describe or configured in some way. Okay. Um, I can chime in on this a little bit.
sure.
Uh, fundamental certifications. Okay. In the Bloom's taxonomy, which is basically a taxonomy for, if it's like remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create, if I'm not mistaken, you need to, that's like stuff that you need to know. Like an associate, usually it's apply. It's how you do stuff. Okay. Most of the things, if you see the objective domain of the certification, or the skills measured, like Microsoft calls it, you'll see that's always like understanding this, understanding that. So that's like the level that you're going to have. So you're never going to need to configure anything. Forget about that. In the fundamentals, that's never going to happen. But yes, you need to understand. If you're going to get an exhibit or not, that's something that we cannot share. Okay. So if you get like questions with exhibits or not, you might not. But most of the exam item types in fundamentals, they are pretty simple. Okay, they're like usually just multiple choice questions, and that's it. Sometimes choose one, sometimes choose two or three, but that's going to be it. If you get exhibits or not, that unfortunately it's something that we're not allowed to to share, because when we do the exam, there's like an agreement. Okay. And when that thing that most of you don't read, you scroll down and you say I agree. Somewhere on that, it says that you cannot share this kind of stuff. Okay, so I don't want to get in trouble.
It's too late, Tiago. You're always in trouble.
I'm always in trouble. Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
I don't know, Vlad, Jonah, you want to?
I'll go last this time. So Jonah, do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want to
sure.
add?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add myself, but yeah. How
Sure.
about you?
So
Go ahead.
for all the 900 exams, a bit like what Tiago said, but I like to explain it in different words. Like you said, you don't need to know how to configure anything. The goal of the 900 exams, imagine you're a salesperson or a PM in a meeting, and somebody comes to you with a problem. Hey, Vlad, I need to automate business processes. Your goal is to know it's Power Automate that does that. So it's really, can you match a business problem to a Microsoft solution? Hey, Vlad, I have this old application running on the super fancy dev language called COBOL that is super popular nowadays, and it doesn't have an API. What can I use to automate stuff with it? Hey, it's Power Automate desktop flows. That's what you need. So you don't need to know how to do it, but you need to be able to know what Microsoft solution solves what business problem. That is the level of it. Without answering about the exhibits and things like that, is there a chance of you getting an exhibit? Hey, this is a Power Automate Cloudflow. Drag and drop. Which one is the trigger? which one is a connector, which one is a logical operator. Yes, there is a chance of you having things like that, but you're not going to have to build a Power Automate Cloudflow. So you'll not have a lab, you'll not have to build, like, in the more advanced ones, it's like, hey, build me the PowerShell commandlet. You're not going to have that. But you might need to identify what are the components of a Power Automate Cloudflow, as an example. But you won't need to build anything, which is
Yes.
kind of cool.
Yeah, I have something to add now. Just thinking in the broader perspective as a developer or someone that takes the typical Microsoft credentials or certifications. I think when it comes to any certification exams, like you just need to know the use case or situation or the question itself. And it's just logic, actually. Like, just like when you think about like choosing what to trigger and what to integrate in which services within the Power Platform. So it can be in PL 900, it could be in any other Power Platform exam as well. So yeah, I think use case and thinking about how it should be used. And probably one of the solutions that one can have is to integrate one of the scenarios with another Azure service, such as like Logic Apps or Azure Functions, depending on the case.
Awesome. Now we have another question. Tiago, I'll put it on the screen
I think
and
it's
then
Jose,
I'll
right?
let you read
You
it.
got us. Oh, okay. It's not Jose. It's Stan. Okay.
Yeah, Stan. I think Stan asked the question about can this cause security issues with an organization, and then a follow-up
Yeah.
because we're not exactly sure about users creating applications and how does it affect the security on your network. Jonah, do you want to get started on this one?
I did not really understand the question. I'm still thinking. Sorry.
Okay. I'll ask it
Okay, go ahead.
differently. The best way that I understood it. What is the impact of having each one of your business users be able to create an application? Because we go from this very controlled IT only DevOps scenario where everything is so controlled to now we enable 99% of the users in the organization to start creating apps. Can this be a security concern for enterprises?
I I think I'm just thinking out loud here in the perspective of someone that works with cloud infrastructure management. I I believe that it can definitely affect the securities if it's not configured properly. But as far as I know, in the organizational level, all the services that we have under Microsoft are integrated with Microsoft Intra ID. So as long as there's like policy and control over that, it should be okay. In my perspective, unless it's overlooked or missed by the admins of the organization or tenants. Anything
I'll,
to add, Chag, on this or Bilal?
sure, I'll go ahead this time
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'll say, as always, our goal as IT admins is how do we empower the user but still sleep at night? That's how I define my job. How do I make users productive, but I'm not afraid of opening my phone in the morning? And uh, if you don't configure anything, can people do bad things with the Power Platform? Absolutely. Somebody can set up a flow that whenever a document gets added in SharePoint, it copies it to their Dropbox. Whenever a message is added on the SharePoint intranet, it gets posted on Twitter and things like that. So can the users do bad things if you let it wide open? Absolutely. It's no secret, but that's the case with anything from external sharing in SharePoint to having people do a Azure function in Azure that's open or a web app that is not properly secured. Now, Microsoft gives you the tools to secure it. You have data policies, for example, where you can block connectors. Maybe you have an environment for all your financial stuff in the Power Platform, and you say, you know what, in this environment, the X, Facebook, MailChimp, Blue Sky, whatever connectors are blocked. So you can absolutely secure it, but you will have to do the job to secure it. Microsoft gives us the tools to empower business users while still having a really good governance model, but it's up to you to actually go and configure them. Now, I wish I could point you to a Power Platform admin certification or credential. There is none right now. I keep pushing to have something more admin focused in the Power Platform, and I think it would be awesome to do it. But there is nothing there yet. But if ever you're looking at things to study, things like that as a Power Platform admin, feel free to DM me directly, and it'll be a pleasure for me to tell you what are the things you need to learn.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with what Vlad was saying, and the big things is like data exposure and the lack of access control. Okay, that's I think the big deal in here. So basically, not having governance at all. Um, because look, if you don't do that, you're also probably not doing that for a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so probably you're not doing that for like some SharePoint files that you have for OneDrive and all of that. So the risk is already there. It's not because you develop this app that the risk now shows up out of nowhere. Okay, so there's a lot that we need to mitigate those risks, because there's always risks. And what Vlad was saying, look, no admin wants to make the user's life hell. Literally no one. They just want to make sure that everyone can access stuff, do their work, but the company also does it in a secure and policy way. Okay, so mitigating risks, it's always important. Implementing governance policies, enforcing things like DLP, access controls, with a lot of training, okay, to educate the users on how use security and how secure the apps, and also integrating monitoring in all this, and having making sure that who builds those apps, they are creating some audit trails, some monitoring on this, and we are not doing like shadow IT, okay, because I think that's also important. We are not using Power Apps and Power Automate and all that to basically work out ways to do things without IT to know. That's not the purpose on this. I think I think those are like the main pointers that I can give you, where governance is king. To be honest, look, if you don't do a good governance in terms of, but this even starts way before this, okay? It starts with Entra ID, with access packages, and a bunch of that stuff, so that you can actually give the right permissions to the right people, and making sure that they always have the right permissions, okay? And it's not because they change from one position to the other in the company, like they have a different job role now. Usually what happens in most companies, they gain more permissions, but they never lose any. But it's important to make sure that they lose some, because they don't need that permission anymore to do their old job. There you go. So you can have that. For example, I can give you my example. I was working in a company and for a few years, and I switched, I don't know how many times floor, okay, because we're doing like renovations. I changed floor. I was able to print to all the printers in the company in the end when I left. Okay, like literally all of them, because I was changing floor, so they gave me permissions to print to that floor, because we had a printer in each floor. And then in the end, I had it. And this is just to show you the example of how bad, this organization was in governance and and all of that, because they just added stuff. That was it. We never got removed any kind of permission, and this is really wrong. It's also is wrong when you start adding things like Copilot into this and that, but we're not here to talk about that today, okay? But that's another nightmare that a lot of organizations have now, because they want to implement, AI and Copilot, and then, but we never did governance in our data. And now Copilot is exposing your data. It's not exposing anything. The data is already exposed. It's just an easier way to access the data. That's just that, because the data is already exposed. But we're not going to talk about AI today. Okay?
We're not going to talk about AI.
Yes.
That would be like the first Microsoft like talk that doesn't use the C word, as I like to say.
Yes.
I spend my whole day talking about Azure AI. Okay,
Okay, no AI today.
so I'm super excited with AI stuff today. Okay, I took a shot.
You're AI brain dead today, Tiago, after your training.
It's not even
We got a
Tiago,
new
it's AI.
question.
It's
We
AI
have a new
Tiago that's
question.
here.
Yes,
Oh,
I
that's a
can
good
read
one.
it. Are there any certification prep resources that you recommend or have found helpful in your experience?
I mean, I'll start. I'm a bit biased, but of course, I will
Be biased.
recommend Pluralsight. Of
You're
course,
super biased.
it's a little bit biased on that. But other than that, of course, I really recommend looking at the Microsoft Learn resources, since all the training materials for the Microsoft official class are free. And I also recommend going and doing the practice questions. Microsoft offers about 50 practice questions that are free. But of course, if you like to learn that way, you can take a look at MeasureUp, which is the Microsoft recommended one. They have a ton more uh, exam prep resources, like especially practice tests for you to go and practice before the exam. So that's what I would recommend. So Pluralsight first, a little bit biased on that one. Then Microsoft Learn, which is amazing amount of knowledge, which is the Microsoft official course content, basically. And then the practice test on both Microsoft Learn and MeasureUp. Again, MeasureUp is better, but it's paid. So up to you to decide if you want to make that investment.
Yes. And aside on top of that, I also want to advise that before your scheduled exam, double check on the study guide on the exam that you're taking, because and also the modules, because there might be that the exam has changed or has been updated. So it's good to refresh your knowledge before you even take or press the button when you take it.
Yeah, from me, it's this is like study guide definitely. Okay, it's
Mm.
like the first step that you need to take when you're doing a certification, because then you can have what Microsoft calls, basically, all the items that can be on the exam, all the topics that can be on the exam. um then you start there. Okay, then Microsoft Learn, there's like learn modules, loads of them for free. Some certifications, not all of them, but some certifications even have like some cert prep videos for free on the Microsoft Learn website. You can just check them. They are usually pretty light. Okay, they're kind of like you should use them as like a resume on all the material. They don't go deep on the material, so don't trust that you know that you pass on the exam, because that's not the purpose of those videos. And then there is like tons of providers of VLT, so video learning training. I think we have to say Vlad has amazing courses. And I've watched a few, not all of them, I have to confess. Okay, but I have watched it, and he kind of explains that it's not just explaining the topic, because to be honest, every expert on the field knows how to do that, can explain, but it's how you explain. And I think you're in good hands, in the Power Platform with Vlad videos, because it's not, because sometimes videos are boring as hell, but Vlad videos are not. Okay, to be totally honest, he's engaging and all that, and I think that's also important. There's also other people out there. Look, it's what it is. Just check, and sometimes you might identify differently with someone else. Look, perfect. As long as we learn, it's that's the important part in all this. And then after you do this, you try something out, you experiment, you play around, you create like a dev environment, you play around with it. It's time for you to start doing exam practice questions. And the way I tackle exam practice questions is like this: I get to the question, and if it's a question I know, answer, check the answer immediately. And I check the answer, I see I'm correct. Okay, move on. I don't need to check this more. I know the topic, move on. Then there is a question. Imagine that you're like, oh, I don't know this. Okay, look at the answers, and probably we call them distractors, which are like the answers that are wrong. Okay, and you look at them and you see, this answer that is wrong, it's wrong. I know it's wrong because even if I don't know the question, I know what this answer is about, and I know it has nothing to do with this. So you already removed to improve your chances. And then eventually, even if you don't get it right, check the answer. You see, oh, I got it wrong. It was another one. Okay. Usually there's always an explanation, like a short explanation, why the correct answer is the correct answer. Okay. And usually some providers of exam questions, they also give you like some links, okay, to some product documentation on Microsoft Learn, where you can find and learn and research a little bit more why that is the correct answer. And then you learn, now you know why that's the correct answer. It's not just knowing the correct answer, it's knowing why that is the correct answer. And then you move on, for the next question, and so on, so on, so on. That's a great way to learn. Microsoft, on the exam page, they have some assessments. And by the way, a very important part, they are going to give you 50 questions for you to take. It's free. You just need to be with your Microsoft account, and you're good to go. Okay. There is one thing, and Vlad is sharing this in here. Okay, so you see, it's going to be called. It needs to sign in, okay, to make this happen. And now you all seen Vlad's email. And
It's okay. I've shared worst.
you shared worse. Okay, that's fine. And basically, you get the question here. Okay, but see, there's 50 questions over there. And the cool thing on this is, by the way, Vlad, can you take the comment, the question on the screen so that people can see everything? The good thing on this is that there are more than 50. So you can take this more than once. Don't do this just once. Like I see a lot of people doing this just once. There is a pool of questions in the back, okay, that is bigger than 50. Can you just answer that just whatever, wrongly or correct?
Whatever. Let's go
randomly just select something. And then check your answer. See what I was saying. And then you can see, oh yeah, see, this is wrong. The correct answer was the first. There's a short explanation and some links for Microsoft Learn. This is the one that are for free. Look, there's also Measure Up, like Vlad was saying. There's a bunch of other providers, not for Power Platform, but for Azure and other stuff I also have on my platform. And look, there's a bunch of stuff like this out there. You can search and find, but essentially, that's kind of the concept. Check this out, read this, understand why that's the correct answer. Okay.
Wow. I don't think I can add anything to that. That
Yes.
was pretty complete. And yeah, since we talked about them, I just wanted to show. So if I just go back a little bit, and you saw my email again, if you go to any exam, kind of under prepare the exam, you'll have the practice where you have the assess your knowledge, where you can take the practice assessment. And the other thing we talked about under certification resources is the study guide, which I like to call it is your checklist of things to study. So
Yeah.
you don't just know, like, the big one. You really have, let's go to one that's more, let's go to Power Apps here. See, describe the differences between Canvas apps and model-driven apps. Describe the use cases of Canvas apps and then model-driven. You need to know how to connect to data sources using connectors. So you really have that checklist of things. And what I like to do most of the time, it's a bit old school, but I print it and then I highlight all the things that I'm confident I know how to do. And once that whole list is highlighted, I'm ready to go take the exam. So that's a bit of how I do it. I know everybody is different, but that's how I like to do it.
Yes. And I think in this page also, Vlad, on the top, this is where we see also like the latest update on the exam.
Yes,
the
that is
change log.
correct.
Yes.
So you'll see here the skills measured as of the date that it was last updated and the skills measured before. So it's important to go check it just to make sure, like, hey, I want to pass the PL 900. Is it going to change in the next week? Because if it does, I'll already start studying for the next version of it. I'll look at the new objectives. Awesome. So that's what I wanted to show real quick, because why not show it, not just talk about it while Tiago was explaining. Let's go to the next one. to Jubair, thank you so much for the amazing comments on the session, and sorry for hiding you, Tiago, here. I feel like I only see Tiago. There we go. We don't see Tiago anymore. But what Jubair is saying is that he didn't have any chance to study for any certifications because let's be honest, we're all busy doing our day job. Is the Microsoft training sufficient or any other resources you'd recommend for studying? And it's a bit of the same answer. I would say that Microsoft Learn, reading it by itself is not sufficient. You need to, again, it will depend on the exam. For the PL900, might be. As soon as you go associate or higher, it will not be. You need to go and practice some of those. You need to go do some of the labs yourself. You need to go do some of the practice tests yourself. Of course, the Microsoft training, if you take it with a Microsoft certified trainer, in theory, it should be enough. But I still recommend that you set up your own side projects. Give yourself a challenge. Hey, I want to build this. Let me try and build it. Let me run into things that I'm blocked. Because when we fail, we often learn the most. We learn how to troubleshoot. We learn new limitations. So I would say try to do your own projects. Try to give yourself challenges and then go from there. That will not only give you a lot of real life knowledge, but also better prepare you for the exam.
Learn by doing. For all of us.
No, look, when I teach sometimes, courses that they target people getting the certification. And there's that question, which is like, hey, Tiago, is this enough? And I always say, no, it's not. Okay. I even they don't even question that anymore because I added that as one of my intro slides. Okay. Which is like how to pass a Microsoft exam. Okay. And the training, yeah, if you have a good instructor, good trainer, it's going to give you like tons of tips for the exam without breaking the NDA of the exam, etc. We can't. Sometimes we see, oh, I had a question on this, but I cannot tell that to people. But we're not supposed to. But that's fine. But we can give like tips. And look, this is important for the exam because there's like a huge percentage of questions on the exam on this, and we don't know this because I saw it on the study guide. It's a public information, okay? And we can always give those tips. But then look, it's a lot about you, okay? You have to put an effort, you have to study, and you have to find the time for that. And yes, look, I'm the first one to complain about lack of time. I have to do an exam. I already postponed the exam twice. It's not because I don't know the topic. It's just because I don't have the time because, a project where I was, because my customer took more time and delivered stuff a little bit late. Now I'm stuck here and I have to deliver some stuff by the end of this week, for example. And I had the exam scheduled for Friday, but I know I'll not have time for Friday to do the exam. So I had to postpone for next week. So I have, I think, on Wednesday or something like that next week. But yeah, look, I'm going to take the exam. That's fine. But we have to find the time if we want to, to have this. What I always advise people is talk with your, at your work with your manager and say, look, I want to take a Microsoft certification. Can you spare me like an hour here, an hour there? Look, do your best to have, the best that you can. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. I'm sure you all know how to deal with this with your managers to have this, because sometimes companies like to have people certified. They will give you the time. They because you're doing this on your own time. It's always hard to find the time, so they can find you sometimes. That hour, that 2 hours that you need to prep, and then on the day of the exam to have the time of the exam so that you can sit at a comfortable hour and not at like 11 p.m. or something like that, because that's not a time to do exams, okay? Because you're tired. It's never good. So I think we have another question, right?
We do have another one from
And that's a pretty
Michael.
cool one, by the way.
Ooh, okay. Do you want to read it, Tiago?
Yeah, so Michael is saying that he created some internal automations, but by using Logic Apps. So Azure, Logic Apps. And briefly look at basically Power Automate, some basic flows there, and have seen some similarities. Why is that? Okay, and how the two products work. Okay, what major differences there are between Logic Apps, Power Automate flows, and you're also wondering a bit about triggers I can use to start Power Automate flows. I usually integrate Logic Apps using webhooks in scripts. But can Power App flows be started in a more, I think it's user friendly way? I'm guessing.
Me
Okay.
too. I'll go check on LinkedIn, but that was my
Yeah.
guess as well.
Yeah, I think I also have LinkedIn here open. Let me see if I can find it. Uh,
I mean, while Tiago looks, I can give you a super short answer before I let the Azure experts take it away. Power Automate and Azure Logic Apps run on the same backend, but the audience is different. Azure Logic Apps is more for developers that create automations. It's built per run. Power Automate is made for the business user, so for people like me that don't like to do code. So for end users, power users, and it's really a software as a service model where you pay per user per month. A lot of it is included, so a lot more user friendly and a lot better integrations with the Microsoft 365 suite. So you can start it when a new item is added to SharePoint, or select a SharePoint document, start a Power Automate flow. So that's the super short answer from the non-dev. I'll let Tiago and Jonah, that probably do a lot more Azure Logic Apps than me, so more than zero, go more in detail.
Yeah, I did read the comment. Did you find it also, Thiago? I think you were right that he said something about Power Automate flows be started in a more user friendly way. For
way.
instance, by any action in Microsoft Teams, like sending a message. Just want to read it out to the audience in case they did not see it also on the channel. Yes, for me, I have to be honest also that I worked a lot with Azure Functions in terms of development and a bit of Azure Logic App. But as far as I understood the question of Michael or Mikael, we there, Azure Logic App is a powerful service in Azure because you can integrate it with Azure Functions, which is programmatic way to create the logic of like workflows, and then you can also integrate it with Power Tools that we have within the Microsoft products and Microsoft Teams. So I the difference between the two, Power Automate and Azure Logic App, that is something I cannot really answer because I have not used both of them. But I maybe Chago can fill in or Vlad can do that.
Yeah, look, I'm not a big expert into the into the uh Power App thing and the Power Automate thing, but yeah, they like Vlad said, they run on the same thing in the back.
Mhm.
And the important part in all of this is that there are some major differences in licensing in the two. Okay, because in Logic Apps it's just Azure consumption. Okay, and you have access to some tasks that you do not have in Logic Apps. Sorry, in the Power Platform. But like we said, there are different audiences, and Logic Apps is pretty much for Azure administrators, core IT people, and the Power Platform ones are just for end users, power end users. And of course, Logic Apps, then we use them for a bunch of stuff in Azure. For example, if you work in the security field with Sentinel, we actually do Logic Apps to respond to threats that are coming, for attacks. And you have Logic Apps as a response mechanism for those. So there's a lot of options in here.
Let me go and just add a bit to your question about triggers. What can we do from a user-friendly way? So I just went to Power Automate here. So I know you mentioned Teams as an example. You see, you can start a flow when a new channel message is added, or when I am mentioned in a channel message over here, or when I'm at mentioned in anywhere, really. So you have a lot of more integrations with Office 365. You can also uh, button here. You see, it mentioned a button. You can have it manually trigger a flow with a button. And if you go really fancy, you can even buy some of those, like, $10 smart buttons that you can put them on your desk. And then if you want to have fun, you can hit the button and then that will start the flow. There we go, like, exactly like the one Tiago is showing. You can start it like that, or a button on your mobile app. uh, if we look at SharePoint, for example, you can start with SharePoint is way better than Azure, right, Tiago? He's muted. He's muted. He's like, no, I'm not going to comment. But you see, you can start it automatically when a new item is created or for a selected file. So somebody selects a file in SharePoint and then says, start this flow on this file. Or you can even have it when an item is deleted from a super important list, send an email to somebody or do something. So Power Automate is all about that simple end user integration with all of the different Office tools, whether that is OneDrive, SharePoint, Planner, Teams, to do whatever's left of it, and really making it simple. Does it look like Azure Logic Apps when you take a look at it like this and you build everything? Absolutely. Same connectors in the back end, same idea of same business goal. Azure Logic Apps is made for developers. So I'll be honest, if you want to start something on a webhook, yes, you do have some of the connectors available. Like you see when a Teams webhook request is received or an HTTP webhook. So you do have the connectors here, but most of the time, Azure Logic Apps will be a better home for the flows that interact with APIs and things like that directly that do not use connectors, while Power Automate is really made a bit more for that power user, no code, very low code audience. So that's the difference a bit for me.
I did also see a good documentation on Microsoft Learn that highlights actually the difference between the two of them. Can I share quickly, Vilad? Can I steal your
Sure,
screen? Let me
absolutely.
see.
Uh,
I'll share
the
which
difference
window.
between them was actually before part of the PL
This
900
one.
exam. That was something that was that you needed to know. I'm not sure if it's there yet or not anymore, but yeah, let's. I'll let you take
Yeah.
it away.
Yeah, so it's just like quick because I think we're out of time also soon. I'm not sure if we have more questions, but I do see here the difference in terms of like category of what are the focus. I think we all did talk cover the answers to this, but we do see because one of the question of Mikael is like what are the major difference. So here we see when it comes to the restricting connectors, these are the difference. So Logic App uses Azure policy. And then exactly as Vilad said, if you want to do like an HTTP trigger webhook that are more programmatically needs to be configured in that way, then Logic App might be an option for that. So that one is actually on Microsoft Learn, and these are like the major key difference. I'll send it out to everybody on the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much for covering that. And yeah, Microsoft Learn often has the answer in there. Uh, Awesome. Well, like you said, Jonah, we are getting at time. So, what I want to say is, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that attended. Really, really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for spending the time. And I think all three of us hope that you got some value out of it and hopefully
Yes.
motivated you to go get a Power Platform credential, whether that is your first certification or maybe your first applied skill, which again, it's free. You can take it without scheduling it, without a proctor. So there is no reason not to go try it, even if you fail. You can take it again in 72 hours. It is a great way for you to get a Power Platform credential. So, Jonah, Tiago, any other last words before we stop the stream?
Yeah, I just want to say that you can always find us on, the learning rooms. Okay. So we are always there, and we have like a Teams, team where you can find us. You can just join by using that link. You have to scroll, and you will find, our three faces there, and then you can, you can ask
Yes.
more questions, and just be we're always free and always available to answer to them. Okay, that's all,
Yes.
and thanks
And we're
for
pretty nice
watching today.
people. We're pretty nice
Yeah,
people. So feel
yes.
free to connect with us on LinkedIn or
Yes.
any of the
Yeah,
other social
and
media platforms.
if you're going to the ESPC in Stockholm in early December, I think the three of us will be there.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
find us, okay, and have a chat with us. We always like, to have a chat with all of you.
Yes, that sounds great. For me, also thank you everybody, and also for Vlad and Chago for like having this session with us. I mean, thank you, and I just reach out to us and join our group, Cloud Certifications Group, and hope we see you also in ESPC here in Sweden, my home country.
Oh, it'll
So
be a short
Chago
travel
and
for
Vlad
you.
will be dominating the Swedish.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. You don't have to fly this time, right? Or do
Yeah,
you?
yeah. I just need to take the train for a
Just
few
take the
hours,
train, and that's enough.
but I'm
Yeah.
gonna probably ask you to bring me some of my favorite Portuguese dessert
Oh,
when
don't
you
say
arrive.
that, because I have to bring to Vlad too. So, but I
You
will. I
have to.
will.
You already have to. But thank you
Yes.
so much, everybody, again. We really hope you enjoyed. And if you ever have any ideas about what we should do next, please let us know in the comments. We're always looking for ideas on what we can do to really help you, our community. So thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank
See you.
you.
Bye
Bye
bye,
bye.
everyone.